Thank you. And now we are going to do our cooperative agreements. We have them listed here. We'd like to go around the room and each person read one. And then we're going to ask if you are all clear and if we agree to practice these. So I'll start. The first one is affirm self and others. No put downs or put ups. So we've talked about affirming words, affirmation. Does anybody have an idea about what affirm self and others means? Great. So an affirmation is a positive characteristic, gift, or strength without ranking above or below, which is why no put downs, no put ups. Don't don't put people down, which we understand. But we also don't put people up. And that's a new understanding that we're getting, that we don't elevate some people above others, that you can appreciate and affirm people without having to say that they're better or above everybody else. A put up is a hidden self put down. It's also a way of separating. It's a way of putting somebody above the rest of us mere mortals, that they can do this incredible work, but don't expect the rest of us to do it. So it's a way of abdicating our responsibilities. So that's really important to us, that we don't put people up or put people down. Is it clear? Do we all agree to practice this? Perfect. Next. Stop, listen, don't interrupt. So we've done that stopping practice. Make sure that we're stopping, letting go of the tension, opening up to transforming power, and that we come to listening from that posture. And we don't interrupt. In a basic workshop, that's all I would say, but in an advanced workshop, we might talk about how we don't interrupt the person, but sometimes we do interrupt the behavior or the speaking. The people who are traumatized often will loop and start repeating, or they'll go on and on like they can't figure out how to stop. And we can help invite them. We kind of interrupt the traumatic pattern, not the person. So when we do interrupt the traumatic pattern, we might invite them. Thank you so much. Would you like to stop now? Is there anything else you wanted to add to that? So we don't cut them off, but we help them find a stopping place. Okay, the next one, speak simply and truthfully without fear of mistakes. So we used to say speak simply and honestly. Honesty is like factual, but sometimes it's not just about here's a stark factual reality. It's seeking the truth underneath that. And why is that true? Because of this. Why is that true? Because of what's down at the bottom. And if we sink down into truth when we're speaking, we will find ourselves united. That doesn't mean like we're trying to find unity, because that's just finding agreement, but that we try to speak truthfully. And if we can find that deeper and deeper truth, we will tend to find ourselves united, even with people who are very different from ourselves. And without fear of mistakes, I think that the focus is not on just without mistakes, it's about without fear. And how do we learn to speak from a place of resilience, of self confidence, of when we're speaking out of the truth doesn't have to persuade or convince. The truth is the truth, and it is just present. So we can set it out and not be afraid. And if we've made a mistake, we just say, "Thank you. Well, that's helpful. Now I'll correct. I'll change." When we discover that we're wrong. Um, the next one. Speak from your own experience, not others, without permission. So we're going to speak from our own experience. One, it's really not helpful when we speculate about others. Often when I get confused or I'm not feeling like I know how to respond, I'll ask the person, do you think that or do you believe that? And they'll go, no, 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 but somebody might, and I wanted to see how you'd respond. That is not helpful. So we need to speak for ourselves from our own experience. And if that means saying that I've experienced this with somebody else and I don't know how to handle it, then do that in a sort of honest way. Um, Speak from your own experience, not others without permission. So if you have a story that you've heard that you really like, that's great. I learned so much from that story of somebody else's story. And I'd really like to share that. Go to that person and ask them, is that okay? You know, when we first made this agreement, the first experience I had, it was just a little story. It was a cute little story. It was really positive. I was like, it doesn't apply there, but we'd made this agreement and it wasn't my story. So I went to the guy and I said, you know, can I share that? That's so nice. And he goes, no, 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 absolutely not. He said, that's about my daughter. And we've been estranged for over 10 years and we're just starting to talk to each other. And if she heard that somewhere else, she would know I was talking about her and that might make her really uncomfortable. I don't want to jeopardize or put my relationship with my daughter at risk. Please don't repeat that. And so that was very instructive to me. So it's also really helps to be able to tell people. It's a form of respect and an honoring. Your story was really important to me and to others. Is it okay if I share that? Make friends, not enemies, with people similar to and different from yourself. Make friends, not enemies. I think that's pretty clear. With people similar and different, we know that when we're oppressed, and that could be on any different elements of race or gender or ability or any other kind of factor, religion, that um, we can often internalize those messages and we start doubting ourselves. We start feeling critical of ourselves and people like us. So if you notice that you're not comfortable with people, you're always wanting to be with people different from yourself, it's a sign, a, a warning that you should really look and see if you've internalized oppressive messages about people like you. So, but then just being with people like similar to you is a real loss of opportunity. We get to know ourselves better by getting to know other people, and that helps. And also it's a joy. It's a joy to get to know other people. People who oppress other people tend to know nothing about the people they oppress. But the people who are oppressed tend to know everything: the language, the mannerisms, the interests, the preferences of the people who oppress them. So if you don't feel an interest in people different from yourself, you should really, that could be a sign that you're really in a very oppressive role and position towards them. And so kind of noticing that, being an oppressor has a lot of blinders. We don't identify that way. So having signs that help us notice that in ourselves is very useful. Ask for and offer hospitality, feedback, and assistance. So we added that one when we started doing the trauma work, that we really need to notice that helping others, but also asking for help ourselves. If you help others, but you never need help yourself, that's a problem. You really need to look at that. That's a real imbalance in your life. If you want to give feedback to others, but you really can't take it yourself, that's another sign that there's a real problem. Or if you constantly want feedback, but you don't want to risk giving it to anybody else. So either way, these things are a challenge. And hospitality is a really interesting one. I I think that's something that we all need to explore more. A lot of religions, it's one of the fundamental principles is spiritual hospitality. It sort of moves us beyond the formula or the utilitarian, you're useful to me for this, and moves us into the realm of kindness and friendship and humanity. Is offering hospitality, but also being willing to receive hospitality from others. To tend emotion, then speak directly if in dispute. So when we become rigid, when our emotions go up, we know that being rigid is always a sign that your mind is not trustworthy. That when emotions are high, you're in a part of the brain that is not thinking clearly, and often it will get very rigid. I know who's to blame. I know what the problem is. I don't want to hear anybody else. I won't take feedback. This is it. This is now. It has to, you have to realize that rigidity is a sign that your brain is not trustworthy. It's a sign that it's always an old experience pattern that's re-emerging. And so we stop and tend our emotions first. And sometimes we need to, the best way to do that is with a companion. You can do it on your own, and it's better to do it on your own than to not do it. But trauma sets in when you become isolated and get caught by yourself and become overwhelmed. And so going in and trying to tend emotion all by yourself reproduces the trauma. Finding someone else and asking for good attention and being able to let go and release those emotions and ask yourself, when was the first time I ever felt this way? Or when was a really pivotal, important time I felt this way? And going back to that and reprocessing that, drawing it out, letting the emotions go. But when you do that with a companion, don't do it as the end in itself. Do it as a way to prepare yourself to come back and deal with the problem directly. Sometimes when you do that, you realize it's all old stuff. And so, you end up going, wow, you come back to the situation now and there's nothing there. It was all me and just projecting myself. Sometimes you come back and there's still a problem. There's still a pain, an injustice, a hurt, a loss, a danger. And then you can address it, but you'll discover that you address it with much more openness and flexibility. The emotion is still there, the feeling is still there, the concern is still there, but it isn't rigid and fixed and demanding. So tend your emotions, but then come back. And if there's still a problem, speak directly to the person. And that's a really important one to me. If we all, say we're clear and agree to this, what I'm doing is I'm trusting you. I can bring my guard down and trust that if you have a problem with me, you're going to come and speak to me about it. That I don't have to second guess. I don't have to self-censor. I can just be fully myself. And if that becomes a problem to anybody, I trust that you're going to come and tell me about it, and we're going to find a way forward together. So this is a really important one. If you do speak directly to someone that you're having a dispute with and it doesn't go well, bring a companion or bring another person with you. And if that doesn't go well, then find a small group. But today I've noticed that a lot of people, we've got a problem here. Let's all get together, and have this circle and all talk about it. I think our practice is start small. See if you can address it in yourself. If there's still something else, see if you can address it directly with the other person. If there's still something else, then go to one other person, then go to a group, then to the whole community. I think that's a better way of handling things. Use what's needed and share the rest fairly. So this doesn't define what need is, and it doesn't define how to share, and it doesn't define what fair is. What it does is say that we are going to make need, sharing, how to share, and fairness a a legitimate public question. Do I really need that? Do you really need that? Do we really need that? Is that a really good way to share, or is that just being controlling, being patronizing? Is that way to share recognizing everybody's strengths and gifts and agency, you know, giving everyone their personal control? Or is it condescending? Is that fair or not? And what would make something fair or equitable? So these are just ways of saying those are going to be open questions, and we're not going to be offended when those questions arise. You know, that this idea that questioning somebody's integrity is offensive is actually a learned behavior, not just that. A lot of people who are offended when they're questioned say, well, it's natural to be offended when you question my integrity. But that's actually a training. In this practice, we question our own and each other's integrity all the time. So that's something we need to be clear with each other about and not take it personally. But again, it's a form of feedback. Say, oh, that's an interesting question. Thank you. Give me some time to think about that. Use your right to pass and to consultation. So that means that you always have the right to, I don't want to speak now. I don't want to do this now. You can always pass. Nobody's forcing you or coercing you to do anything. And the right to ask for consultation that's usually given to the teacher, the leader, the person in control. If they want to stop and say, wait, why are we doing this? What's the timing? Should we take a break? Is this the right thing to do? But we want to share that power with everybody. If anyone in the room feels like they're not clear about what we're doing as a group or why we're doing it, and you want to ask us to stop and talk about that for a minute, anyone in the room can do that. Volunteer yourself only, not others. That means that you can volunteer yourself, but you don't go, yeah, you answer, or they're really good at that. Ask them to do it. That you can ask somebody, I've seen that you've done such a nice job of this before. Would you like to do that? Then they can volunteer themselves, but you don't volunteer others. Care for each person, the group, the community, and the natural world. So these are not opposed to each other. Find the path that is caring for you and the group, the community, and the natural world. And so just like we find ways to do things that don't hurt any of the individuals around us, the group is a body. And we shouldn't be doing anything that hurts. We should be noticing, what is the group doing right now? And is this the appropriate time to ask this question, or to walk out of the room, or to go take a break, or something? That we balance, we find a path that's healthy for myself, others, and the group. And the group sits within a larger community of the people who use this facility, other people coming and going. Does it work for them, and does it work for the natural world around us? And finally, live in integrity with life's transforming power. Thank you. So so I just narrated how I would answer questions as they arose. But when you're facilitating this activity, you should go around the circle and have one participant read one, ask the group, Is it clear? And then sit back. Don't add an explanation unless it feels really important to the group. You should be thinking about these agreements in every activity you do. So when you do an activity and you're practicing that activity, you should be looking, are there agreements that relate to this activity that I might be able to refer to as I do this activity? And throughout the workshop and outside of the workshop sessions, you should be using the language of the agreements. You should know these ideas around the agreements. But when you introduce them, you don't have to explain them all. People don't have to understand them all. But if the group seems to be struggling with something, ask the group first. How, does anybody have an answer? Don't think it's just the facilitator that can answer. Ask the group. Does anybody have a response to that? If an individual seems like there's something they're feeling uncomfortable, like really unclear about, or the group is responding in a way that is not taking into account a really important aspect of the agreement, you can add it when you go over it. But always ask yourself, is this really important to add right now, or could I do that later? If you could do it later, always do it later, because the agreements are where we get bogged down, and the agreements are where power is negotiated. The less the facilitators can talk during the introduction of the agreements, the better. So I did not explain each one of these because I think you should be sharing all of this. I explained it in case anybody asks. I wanted you to have a central idea, core idea that was important. But I really try not to speak, and to speak as little as possible when we do the agreements. Please read this one. Is it clear? Do we all agree to practice? Thank you. Can you read the next one? Is it clear? Do we all agree to practice? And go through each one that way. And then say, okay, thank you all very much. Are there any agreements that we would like to add that would make you feel comfortable, or help you to feel comfortable and able to participate in this group? We'll add them at this sheet at the bottom. And remember, anytime during the workshop that something happens and that you would like to add an agreement that would help us work better together, please feel free to add. Thank you very much. And now I pass to